I don't have a gavel, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'm calling the House Communications and Technology Committee meeting to order. Mary, could you call the roll, please?
Here. Representative Nelson. Representative Napoleon Nelson, I'm sorry.
Designation.
Representative Powell. Representative Carroll. Representative Curry. Representative Davidson. Representative Doherty. Representative Inglis. Representative Prokopiak.
Here.
Representative Rivera. Representative Wasmach. Representative Siebel. Representative Akak. Representative Waxman. Chairman Orchita.
Here.
Representative Day.
Designation.
Representative Gallegos. Here. Representative Diorsi. Representative Ecker.
Designation.
Representative Urban. Representative Ledbetter.
Designation.
Representative Nelson, Eric Nelson. Representative Reichert.
Designation.
Representative Rigby. Representative Chavala.
Designation.
Representative Sir.
Designation.
Thank you. Please note Representative Day and Carroll are in the room with us. We have three bills today. The first bill is House Bill 197. I'm the maker of the bill, but I'll have Alex talk about the bill, and then we'll get into it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 197 amends the right to know law to require Commonwealth agencies to provide live telephone service for the public.
Thank you. And there is one amendment, Amendment 00806. Talk about the amendment? Yeah. Oh, I offer the amendment up. All right. I didn't go by the script, but if you come see me perform, you'll know why you never do. But go ahead, Alex.
Thank you. Amendment A00806 limits the new requirements for Commonwealth agencies under the bill to regular business hours and adds exemptions for call distribution centers that queue and direct incoming calls and for answering systems that allow the option for callers to speak with a live Commonwealth employee.
Are there any questions on the amendment? Seeing none, are there any negative votes? Okay. Amendment A00806 passes. Now on to the bill itself. Are there any questions on the bill? Okay. Are there any negative votes? Seeing none, House Bill 197 passes with the amendment and will be passed on to the House floor. Moving on, we have House Bill 627 by Representative Solomon. Alex, you read about a bill, please.
House Bill 627 establishes the Public Safety Resident Communications Pilot Program in the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. The program will provide grants to law enforcement agencies to support the purchase and implementation of community engagement software.
Representative Solomon, would you like to speak about your bill?
Thank you, Chairman Cerisi, Chairman Ortitai. I appreciate you bringing up this legislation. So this is based on the Pennsylvania Crime Commission and Delinquency Law that was enacted in 1978. Part of that law charges us in the legislature to enact programs that build better relationships between communities and police, to make victims feel safer, and overall to ensure that communities are safer and more secure. So that's what this bill intends to do. Victims of crimes throughout the Commonwealth. It's a very vulnerable moment, I think, for people. People feel frustrated, lack of place, don't exactly know what they need to do. And so I think on a very sort of basic level, what we can do is provide victims with just basic information. Here's who your DA is. Here is the investigating officer. Here are important updates on your case. And then on the back end, and this is a nice accountability tool for police departments, the legislation allows victims and people in communities to say, you know, we really like the interaction with this officer. We had an issue with a different officer, and that information then goes to the captain for review and hopefully improvement. So it is a great victim advocacy tool, and I would encourage a yes vote. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions? Representative Dorsey?
So thanks, Representative Solomon, for bringing this bill forward. Just for clarification, I'm looking at the definition of community engagement software within the bill, and I know that some of my regional and local police departments have community engagement wings. Can you give me like a tangible example of how this would work? I'm just struggling for information here on this software.
Sure. So there's a provision in the bill that specifically says if your community has engagement software already, this is not in any way going to prevent your community from continuing with that particular program. So you're the victim of a burglary or robbery, domestic violence. You would get a text message, which you could opt out of if you don't want to be bothered. And it would say, here are the key contacts that you can reach out to. So let's say it was property damage. Here's the officer within the police department who can help you access resources. Here's your DA who's going to be doing the investigative work. The text message might also include, here are important court dates. So we kind of take away the bureaucratic piece of it so that victims, their families can function on sort of the healing process. Thank you.
Representative Urban?
Thank you, Chairman. Could you also explain the diversity section of it, where we're looking at the commission shall ensure grant awards are made under the program are geographically dispersed throughout the Commonwealth on that?
Sure. So we seem to do this in quite a number of acts, which is we don't want one particular county or region. I think you could argue there are probably 6 regions across the Commonwealth. So we want to get a nice spread, urban, suburban, rural, and make sure that it represents the geographic diversity of the Commonwealth. We don't want all the grants going to Western Pennsylvania or Southeastern Pennsylvania or the T. We want a nice spread.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, Representative Gatos?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When it refers to community engagement software, is there currently any software that they are planning on? Is that all set, or will there be RFPs? How will that work?
There would be RFPs. There's an example, right? So Arizona, a number of their DA departments and law enforcement agencies are using similar software. Very few folks are opting out. People are engaging. And it seems to be a welcome change within the police departments. But there would be an RFP, and then it would be a competitive grant program. We would then the bill allows for performance measures to be tracked so we can get a sense of whether police departments think that this is a valuable tool or not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Rigby?
Thank you, Chairman. The information that is put into this will be done by the departments, I take it, and they'll be responsible then for the upgrades, the upkeeps, to make sure as positions change, DAs change, that they're updating all that information on a regular basis.
Yes, Representative Rigby. coordination and collaboration with whatever vendor or vendors would be awarded the contract.
And then who does the tracking? Is it the vendors, or is this a responsibility that we're going to throw onto MOPEC? I just wonder who is going to see it after that, and is it information that's going to be shared with the public?
The information is not shared. We've exempted victims' information and such from the right to know law. So that was your second piece. On the tracking, the sort of daily grind of this, that would be covered in an RFP. So that's at least what's done in Arizona. It's the outside entity that does the day-to-day work that would be required under this legislation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Day.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask you a brief question about how does this trigger, how does this interact with internal investigations? So when you have this type of information, you'd need somebody in the process that has the responsibility to look at each piece of data. Does this trigger an internal investigation? And have you looked at that and how that would be? Or are we requiring somebody in that process that has that responsibility to review this? Or are we going to leave the information with outside vendors and maybe open up departments to liability for that?
I'm unclear, Representative Day. When you say subject to an internal investigation,
Sure.
What internal investigation do you mean?
So every a police department has a process where when there's information that they come upon, let's say definitely the chief of police, and then it goes down the organizational structure down to assistant chiefs, captains, probably lieutenants, probably everybody in the command structure has a responsibility. When you get a certain piece of information, that has to be referred to internal investigation. I'm just concerned. You're doing a great job with this, and I just wanted to hear if you've looked at this. When this data comes in, are we going to leave it with, a frontline employee? Are we going to leave it with a vendor to make the decision of whether it goes to internal investigation? Because if we don't have that covered, then it would open up the department to liability.
I think I understand, Representative, where you're going. If there was community feedback, which, let's say, a community member has a negative interaction with a particular officer, this is really not contemplated in the bill. So that information would go to the police department, and the captain would review that information, and then the internal review would be the captain working with them, any processes they have to move forward.
If a captain is involved, I think it covers what I'm inquiring. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chairman, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know there's no funding earmarked in the bill, but it is listed as a pilot program. Is there a reason why you didn't put a sunset date in there?
No, a pilot program to me is already something that might have a short shelf life, and that's why we built in the performance metrics in to see if it's something that is widely accepted, adopted by DAs, police departments, and whether it should continue to move forward. Also in the bill is that this only moves forward subject to an appropriation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Any other questions or comments? Before we go to the vote, we've been joined by Representatives Resnick, Inglis, and Stair. Mary, would you call the roll, please? Yes. Yes, by designation.
Carroll. Yes. Representative Curry.
Yes, by designation.
Representative Davidson.
Yes, by designation.
Representative Dougherty.
Yes, by designation.
Representative Inglis?
Yes.
Representative Krokoviac?
Yes.
Representative Rivera?
Yes.
Representative Rosnoff?
Yes.
Representative Siegel?
Yes, by designation.
Representative Platak?
Yes.
Representative Waxman?
Yes.
Chairman Ortiz?
Yes.
Representative Day?
Yes.
Dados?
Yes.
Orsi?
Yes.
Ecker?
Yes, by designation.
Irvin? Ledbetter?
Yes, by designation.
Nelson? Eric Nelson?
Yes.
Reichert?
Yes, by designation.
Rigby?
Yes.
Zavala?
Yes, by designation.
Chair.
Okay. House Bill 627 will be reported to House Communications Technology Committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Moving on. House Bill 811. Was it? The chair calls up House Bill 811. Alex, could you read the summary of the bill, please?
Yes, House Bill 811 requires disclosure and provides for civil liability for the fraudulent use of an artificially generated impersonation of a candidate in a campaign advertisement.
I see we have the maker of the bill here, Representative Khan.
Thank you.
We'd like to make some comments, both you and Representative Schaefer.
Thank
Sure,
you.
fine.
Thank you, Chair Cerisi. Thank you, Chair Ortiz. It's great to be in front of this committee, and thank you for hearing our bill. This was a bill that we actually worked on last session. I worked on it with Representative Mercuri, and it actually passed with strong bipartisan support. We actually got a lot of feedback about this bill from Representative Bonner, and I worked on a lot of his feedback to incorporate that in this bill. And this session, I've been honored to work with Representative Schaefer on this bill, basically protecting the public against deceptive campaign advertising using deep fakes or artificially using AI or deceptively using AI. With the evolution of AI, it's getting harder and harder to tell what's real and what's fake. And we've seen ads that are using the candidate's image, using the candidate's voice, and actually it's not the candidate saying it, it's an AI generated image. And unfortunately, that's not something that we've actually have regulation on here in the Commonwealth. So this is something that many states are invoking this regulation to make sure that it's being done right, because it can cross over into free speech issues. We had to work very carefully to make sure that we weren't crossing any legal bounds. So we made sure that this is a sound legal bill. We've also have a lot of input from the people who make AI to make sure that we're not stepping on any creativity from these companies, but just making sure that the people who use it are being held accountable if they misuse it. Representative Schaefer, anything you want to add?
Yes, I'm glad to be part of this bill. You know, technology can be used for both good and nefarious purposes. And in this case, especially in our elections, we need trust in a democracy. We need people to have confidence that the individuals that they're voting for, they stand for what they're saying. And that trust, of course, is knowing that if they see an image, a recording, a video of someone, that is in fact that person saying that. Technology has leaped ahead so much that it's now possible for the AI to generate video and speech that is very realistic and that humans are not able to tell apart. So that can be used, as any of us can see, for very incorrect purposes. And so this is AI can be used in so many different domains, and this is one where within our elections that I think it helps restore some trust in our elections.
Thank you both. Before we get to the bill, there is an amendment I'd like to call up, Amendment 00811. Alex, could you please read the amendment?
Yes, Amendment A00811 adds a definition for deepfake and replaces previous references to synthetic content, artificial intelligence, and generative artificial intelligence. The amendment also adds provisions for digital content provenance, sets disclosure requirements for campaign advertisements, in language other than English, provides an exemption for providers and developers of AI technology, makes changes to liability and disclosure requirements, adds vice president to the list of covered candidates, removes a subsection on location, and makes technical changes.
Are there any questions on the amendment? On the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you. I know this was one of the bills that we had scheduled for our first meeting after raising some concerns for holding the bill and working with us on the language along with the administration on this. You didn't have to do that. I know it was our first meeting. I think it sets a good tone for the rest of this session. So I appreciate you working with us on that to get to this landing spot. And I'd ask all my members to be a yes on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that, are there any negative votes? Okay, amendment 00811 passes on into the bill. Now onto the bill itself. Are there any comments on the bill? No, Representative Waxman had one first. And take that.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate that. And I just want to congratulate the makers of the bill for bringing this forward. I think it's a really, really important proposal, and I'm looking forward to voting for it. I just wanted to say a little bit about why I think this bill is so important. You know, I am somebody that really does believe in the transformative potential of AI. It is a technology that obviously is going to shape our future in so many ways. And, you know, one of the exciting things about being on this committee is these are the issues that we're going to be able to get into. And I really do believe this technology is going to define a lot of, going forward, what the important public policy issues are and how we grapple with them. I think that for me, the reason that I'm voting for this bill is right now we have a very, very small number of people who pretty much control all of the AI technology, a small number of technology companies that are run by an even smaller group of people who pretty much control you know, what is happening with AI, what the development of AI is, and how it's going to impact our society. And of course, the risk with that is that we may wind up in a situation where the already existing inequalities in our society are just exacerbated, you know, by this technology and by the consolidated power over the technology. And so obviously the solution is for policymakers to be aware of this threat and to act. And I think that House Bill 811, you know, it does that. I worked on a few campaigns in my time before I got to the legislature, and certainly it is not just about the ability of the technology to do kind of deep fakes and trick people into what people are saying or doing. It's just who is going to have access to the type of technology that really can be transformative and can actually win you a campaign. And so it's about access as much as it's about bad actors. And so I'm looking forward to voting for this bill, and I'm grateful to the chair for bringing it up and for the makers of the bill for putting it together. So I urge a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Tatak?
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. I, too, would like to echo what Representative Waxman said in terms of appreciating this bill. I've mentioned to you before, Representative Kahn, one of my real concerns is the time limitation of this. You know, time limited to 90 days before the election. But something Representative Schaefer said really underscores the need to make this more comprehensive, in my view. You know, there are some, our democracy is under attack by some who want to undermine trust and faith in our democracy. There's nothing that says that after an election you couldn't do a deep fake of a candidate saying that they didn't accept the results of the election, for example, right? And let's say the 91st day before the election, there's this flurry of advertisements that are out there that are fakes. So I worry that this is a great first step, but I'm deeply concerned that it doesn't go far enough in terms of making sure that we're actually protecting our democracy from those who would undermine us. So, you know, not necessarily a question in there, but if you would like to comment on that, you know, I think that's something that many of us would be interested in hearing how we landed on where we did.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question. It was something that we were very cognizant of the time frame. And the concern is that when you extend it past 90 days, you're getting out of there are certain protections when you're in a campaign cycle. And in the law, it's 90 days. That is basically the generally accepted cycle of a campaign, even though we all know that campaigns some people are perpetually in campaign mode. But in order to make sure that we are not running afoul of campaign law and pre-existing constitutional law, we had to make sure that we were narrowly tailoring this bill to an election cycle. And for all parties, and again, this is something that we had to narrowly tailor this to make sure that we were not running afoul of what's in the Constitution, even free speech advocates, making sure that this is sound. So 90 days is what we have come up with. And again, this reflects other protections in the law around elections that are also 90 days. I think if we, as you mentioned, I think this is a bold, important first step, very well considered first step. If we find out that, it's being abused and people are doing something outside the window, I think we could possibly look at this again. But right now, there is no protections at all. And this will give us protections when we're real and people really start to follow what's going on. The other thing I just want to say is that we've also narrowly tailored this to elections. And so when you're outside of an election, so let's say the election is over and then it's something that happens after an election is done, it's not really covered under this because we're narrowly focused on the actual election itself. So if it's something that happens like January after an election year, it wouldn't be covered under this law because this is narrowly focused to just the election cycle, and it's only for advertisement. So if it's something that some guy does on his computer just to try to, score some points, this is not covered because that's not a campaign advertisement. That's being broadcast. So again, it's a narrowly tailored bill. There may be other things and other, maybe you'll have a bill that will address other things that fall outside of a campaign, but for our purposes, this covers that 90 days. Anything you want to add, Representative?
I'll just say, very valid point. And probably the most dangerous part, though, would be for something to occur right before the election and then for there not be an opportunity to respond to it, right? So obviously this covers that. So we cover probably the most egregious areas, but you're correct. Even outside of a campaign, whether it's a public figure, this could do damage. So I think there's a need for using this as a springboard to other regulations.
And just a quick comment. I mean, the election isn't over until it's certified, right? We've seen that time and again, even here in the Commonwealth. So just to put that out there. Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Representative Rivera.
Yes, I'm happy to see this. I know we can't prevent anything when it comes to technology. We can't talk about it as a future thing. It's been happening for decades that we've had this technology, and our job is to put out fires when it comes to technology. We just can't predict what's coming. So I appreciate this in education as well, seeing how technology can be misused, finding all of these little niches about how to put in the guide rails that will protect is a great first step, and I'm very much in favor of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I also would like to comment on how I think this is a great bill and something that we will see more of as we move forward, but a stopgap measure that's a bipartisan movement and something that is well needed. So thank you both for this. Okay, seeing no other comments, House Bill 811 as amended. Are there any negative votes on the House bill? Seeing none, we'll report the House bill is unanimous. Moved out of the House Communications Technology Committee. Mr. Chairman, is there anything else you'd like to add before we adjourn? Thank you all very much. Meeting adjourned.
Oh, yeah.